Okay, friends, it's my honor to introduce Joshilyn Jackson. She is a New York Times and USA Today best-selling author who writes both page-turning domestic suspense and Southern Book Club novels that revolve around timely women's issues, raising questions about justice, motherhood, career, class, and the thorny mechanics of redemption. Her critically acclaimed work has been translated into more than a dozen languages, and she is also an award-winning audiobook narrator. She lives in a gently haunted 150-year-old Victorian row house in upstate New York with her family. And on the personal side, she is a recent empty nester who has replaced her two grown kids with their Boston Terrier doppelgangers, an independent, high energy older boy with dark hair and a younger, lighter hair, more snuggly and cozy girl. She began as a playwright and actor and has read enough audiobooks to qualify for a SAG card, which was the dream of her 19-year-old self. So today she's going to be telling us about writing with your hands dirty. So please welcome Joshilyn Jackson.
Hello. Thank you so much for asking me to do this. I'm going to talk a little bit. Look, the dog knows how to clap. Good God, you're such a technologically savvy dog. Thank you. I'm going to talk kind of short. I'm going to talk a little bit about research methodologies that I have found really useful. And some of it is going to be useful to you, and some of you are probably already doing, but in some ways, like part of it is just like giving yourself permission to do these things. And I always find that helpful. I had people give me permission to do these things, because it's not like you need permission, but it's like um like it's normal to do, or it's okay to research in these ways. So I'm going to talk about three different things, and then we'll talk about whatever you guys want to talk about. So if you have questions about research or anything else, just about, I've been doing this for 21 years now. So I've had a kind of a long career, and I like it. So I know a lot of stuff. So whatever you want to ask about, we can do that. I do want to tell you that, look right there, or here, larger, Missing Sister comes out next week. Oh my God. She's got heart palpitations. It's my latest thriller. It's domestic suspense. It got starred reviews from Kirkus and Library Journal. It was a Library Reads Hall of Fame pick, which means librarians all over the country voted for this as their favorite book to come out this month. You know, the top ones get put into the Library Reads program. And I hope that you will pick it up from Bookhouse at Stuyvesant Plaza, or whatever your local independent bookstore is, and give it a read, or put it on hold at the library. As you all know, that's extremely helpful. If you ask your librarian, are you guys going to be carrying this, and start a waiting list for it, that's extremely helpful. So I hope you'll all give it a read. I'm really proud of it. First thing I want to talk about is interviews. So I think whenever I'm writing outside of my experience, I have to be extremely respectful. And like the way to do that is to talk to people who have lived those experiences. For example, I wrote a book where one of the main characters was a coda, a child of a deaf adult, and her mother was a deaf-blind artist. She had a syndrome that is, most people who are deaf-blind have this genetic syndrome. It's where you are born deaf, and as you reach middle age, you begin to lose your sight as well, so that you then become deaf-blind. And it is profoundly difficult. And you can go to training programs to find out how to live once your sight is gone while you still have sight. And I just thought about, like, for an artist to be on that kind of timer where you're going to lose your vision was an interesting thing. And so I sort of embedded in the deafblind community in Atlanta. And when they found out that I was writing this book, they were so happy that somebody was like, they invited me into their homes, people in this community. They showed me all the technology that they were using to make their lives easier. Um, all of them, every person that I met was a whole live person who had a network of human connections and rich, full lives. And like I wanted to, I don't think I would have understood that to that degree, because to me it's just really scary. Like the idea of being deaf and blind is just, it's just terrifying to me, but it's the reality that they are living, and their lives are great. Like, yes, they have a lot of challenges, but they also, many of them marry, they have children, they have animals, they can live independently with certain kinds of support, and have jobs and things that they are passionate about, and they, within the strictures of what they have, they live really kind of amazing lives. And so I've always kind of made it that thing, like even if I'm writing outside my experience in a way that's not so extreme, where if you get it wrong, you're being actively offensive. Just like I'm not a divorce lawyer. I wrote one book about a divorce lawyer, and I wanted to talk to divorce lawyers. Like I could read about it, and you can do the musty tome stuff too, but it's really nice to talk to people who are down in the trenches. Um, and this was a thing, like when I first started getting very interested in doing interviews to learn about stuff, was really my second novel, which was the deaf-blind character. And what I learned is, what I mean when I say like you kind of need permission, like I was very anxious to ask, like, hey, total stranger, can I sit down with you and just pick your life apart and find out everything about your lived experience in this area? And what I learned is people love to talk about themselves, their lives, and the things they love to do. Um, so you're going to get a yes if you approach enough people. I mean, there are some people that just aren't going to do it. They don't want to, they're not interested, but I get a lot more yeses than I get nos when I say to someone, hey, my name is Joshilyn Jackson. I'm a writer. The book I'm writing right now has a blank in it. I know this is your area of expertise, and this is important too. Can I come to a place near your home and buy you a coffee, lunch, cocktail, dinner, and just pick your brain for a while? So you pay for their time, they're going to get a free meal, and they're going to get a conversation with somebody who's wildly interested in the stuff they want to talk about anyway. When doing these kinds of interviews, I found that I need to do it in two sections. In one section of the interview, I just want them to talk. So I ask leading questions. I ask them for their favorite story. I ask them how they decided to become this, or their inroad into, if it's a career or something. Um, for one book, I spent a lot of time with like geneticists who work at Emory University. Those are some weird dudes. And like they'll talk about, so you just get them to talk because you'll get ideas about that. But then the most important thing you want to do, and this is, I learned this by trial and error. If you try to tell them, okay, so in my story, this lawyer goes to, they'll be like, nope, it wouldn't happen that way. And they'll try to tell you how it happens. You don't want to do that. It's a waste of your time, because for your book to go forward, your lawyer has to do this thing, right? She has to. So the way you get that out of them is you say, okay, for my book to work, I need my lawyer to do this thing. Help me find a path. Under what circumstances could my lawyer do this thing? And if it's absolutely not possible, what's the closest thing we can get to it? So that gets them thinking like on your team, not explaining to you what you got wrong, but how to do what you want to do correctly. When I figured that out, the time I needed to interview people was cut in half. I needed a lot less follow-up interviews because they get kind of into it. They're like, oh, well, if I wanted to do that, I would. And so they can help you. I mean, I've gotten, like, as I said, I've gotten world-renowned geneticists to talk to me. I've gotten um, a world-renowned preacher who's on NPR to talk to me just by asking. And a lot of people, like, the fancier the people are, the more no's you're going to get. But you just keep going and you keep asking until you find somebody that says yes. And if they're just too busy and important for you, then you just kind of go and move on to the next person, because you're busy, fancy, and important too. And what you're doing matters too. And you're like, I don't know anybody who hasn't come out of an interview with me, but that they felt happy because they got a nice coffee drink and they were listened to for 2 hours. The second thing I really believe in is hands-on research. I'm going to talk about this in two different ways. I mean, obviously, you're going to do all your musty tome stuff. You're going to check your dates, da 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 da. You're going to check your maps if you're trying to set something in a city and realistically, whatever that city is. But I really believe there is just no substitute for actually doing the thing. And even if there are some things you're just not going to be able to do, but you can do something close to it. So when I started writing my first suspense novel, it was called Never Have I Ever. And I wanted the narrator to be a scuba diving instructor because I had a great idea for how to commit crime underwater. I wanted to do some crime under the sea. And I grew up on the beach. I love to, be in the ocean, but I'm a claustrophobic person. And I thought, I'll just watch a lot of YouTube videos and I will interview people. So I did that, and I'm writing these scuba diving scenes, and they should be like the set piece knockout scenes in that book. And they were just crap, quite frankly. So I said to my husband, we have not had our midlife crises yet. What if scuba diving was because you got to do, when you have your midlife crisis, you need to do something expensive and a little bit life threatening. Scuba diving is perfect. And I was like, let's do this for a midlife crisis. And he liked that better than like an oiled cabana boy for me or a sports car for him. He was like, that sounds like an awesome midlife crisis. Let's do that. And I thought I would hate it, but I thought I'm just going to do it just to see. And the first time I got in the pool, just the pool with the equipment, and I sunk down to the bottom, I was like, I am a magical mermaid. I can breathe underwater. It was just unbelievably magic feeling. And we ended up getting like addicted to scuba. We're now both master scuba divers, which is the highest ranking you can get as an amateur who doesn't do anything professional. We're certified rescue divers. Like if you're scuba diving and you get in trouble, we know a lot of ways to make sure you don't die. We've traveled all over the world scuba diving. So it really opened up a world for me. And it was a thing I thought I would hate. And I only did it because I wanted this moment to feel real. Well, having done that, like the things that came out of just doing that one thing, just the travel and the people I met, 2 more books that weren't necessarily about scuba diving, but it came out of leaving my house and doing this thing that I thought was really scary. And scuba diving is also just like stupid expensive. You don't have to, you only get one of those midlife crisis things. But I mean, like for Missing Sister, this is the first time I've ever written a cop. It's a little bit, I love like those old police procedurals, and I wanted to do something a little bit like that, even though my books really are character driven. So the most important thing to me was this family, but like I wanted Penny to start the book as a cop, and she tells you on the first page tonight is the night I learned that I can't be a cop because things are going to go really bad because it's a thriller. But I talked to, so there's a thriller writer, you probably have heard of her, Karen Slaughter, who, when I lived in Atlanta, we lived in adjoining neighborhoods. Hers is fancier than mine. But I lived in, I mean, I knew her. Of course, I knew her because we lived near each other and we were both writers around town. And she's been very great to me. She's a really cool person. And she told me, if you want to be a cop, do the same thing you say about interviews. Call them and go on a ride along. You can do that. You can also, like, the best thing I've done for writing crime, I did 3 things. I did ride along. I did my community police program. Do you guys know about this? It's called Community Police Academy. Almost every police department has one where you and other members who are not cops and who are not going to be cops kind of go through this. In some cities, it's 8 weeks, and some it's 12. This was a 12-week program. They're different lengths. It was once a week for 4 hours. We would meet up and do cop stuff. I got to go to a morgue and see part of an autopsy. I got to do police training stuff, like the videos where, like, obviously they didn't hand me a real gun, but in the police academy, they don't train with real guns either. You do these exercises, and we did the same ones that the police do, where you are going through a warehouse, like 3D whatever, and there's like, you're there because of drug dealers or something. Like, it's a whole scenario, and you come upon a man standing by a desk, and you're supposed to get him to show you his hands, and he won't do it. You're like, put your hands up, and he won't do it. He's like, man, why are you being so unreasonable? I just work here. Why? He's very defensive and entitled. And then he reaches for something on the desk and grabs it. And you have to decide, like that, if you're going to shoot him or not. Sometimes he has a gun. We all talk later. Sometimes he has a gun. Sometimes he has a stapler. You guys, I flat murdered a guy with a stapler. But like, to be in that moment of pressure, like, it's really loud. It's really correct. I mean, that changed how I write action scenes, to be doing that, to be also, like, it was honestly, it was upsetting, but to do all the morgue stuff, like, I ended up with 2 forensic scientists in my contact list that I have asked many questions of since then, just not only for this book, but for other things, like, to have that network. It's just, I mean, it was a big time investment, but it was free. And I got to meet a darling police dog named Richard. So it was, and I got contacts in a police department where I can still, to this day, there's an officer named Erin Ainge. If I have a cop question, I can email Erin and she will get back to me very quickly. So those kinds of things, it doesn't have to be like, I want to ride in Venice. Now I have to find $10,000 and go live in Venice for 6 weeks. It can be just stuff like this, where you are immersing yourself into something unfamiliar. And that kind of brings me to the last thing, which is like, to be in that situation with that fake gun and to murder the stapler guy was, it changed my understanding of action scenes. And as a theater person, I'm gonna tell you that, like, the smartest thing you can do to make your action scenes work is to physically block it out. Get up on your feet and do it. I remember I was on a writing retreat once. I like to go to my friends' houses and we gather, sometimes they come to my house, I go to their house. We'll take 3 or 4 days. And the way we do writing retreats is you stay at each other's houses because it's free. And at night you have dinner together and you set your goals for the next day. And as soon as you finish your goals, and everybody has to agree to your goals, so you can't be a weasel, right? You have to, you can't be like, oh, well, I'm just going to read through these 3 chapters. People will be like, what word count are you going to hit? You know, you have to have a really good stretch goal for the day. When you finish your goal, you're done for the day and you can go play and all your friends are there. And one of my friends has horses. One of my friends lives in New York City. Like there's fun stuff to do. So if you, as soon as you're done, you can start playing. And there's no worse feeling than you have 1,000 more words and you hear everybody else playing. You will get that 1,000 words out. But so one time I was at my friend's house on this retreat where we were all doing our stuff. And I was doing a scene. I was writing a very difficult scene where this man tries to kill a woman. Now, she is a tiny little person. She's like a 5 foot nothing person. And this is a big freaking man. And I was like, okay, if he's this tall and she's this tall, how is he gonna effectively hit her? And I couldn't, like, he's a foot taller than she is. So I called my friend Sarah over and we got a step ladder. She and I are the same height. We got a step ladder that put me a foot taller than her so I could see where my hand would land to put my hand on her throat, push her in the wall. And if I'm punching underhanded, where am I going to be hitting her? Where is she going to be bruised? What's my body doing to get, good blows in on her as I try to murder her? And we're setting this up and doing this when Sarah's husband walks through the room and he says, oh, hey, Joshilyn, because they are used to me doing this. That's how I block all my action scenes. I literally have my husband or my friends, we stand up. If we're doing combat, we block it so that I know it's real, that if this person is this size and this person is that size and you have this weapon and I have nothing, where is that blow going to land? If I twist this way, how effective is that going to be? Like, and those kind of things, that kind of authenticity in an action scene. There's nothing worse than reading somebody's action scene and you just can't see it. Well, there's plenty of worse things. It's a horrible world we live in. But in a book, there's nothing that irritates me more than I think about The Portrait of Dorian Gray, right? I love that novel. I love Oscar Wilde. And it's not a thriller, so those little physical things don't matter. He has this, it opens in a scene in a garden with these 2 people talking, and one of the people there is drinking tea, lighting their cigarette, fiddling with their mustache. They have a cane, they do something with a flower. By the time you're 6 pages into the scene, this person has 18 hands. It's Oscar Wilde and it's a comedy of manners, so you just don't care. But in an action scene, when you're involved in that, like that stuff really does matter. Like you can wreck pacing. So those are my advice. This is how I do my research. Is you do the 2 different kind. Oh, this is almost the end, guys, by the way. So get your questions ready. Be ready. It's almost your turn to talk. When you're doing an interview, you do those 2 kinds of things. Just let people talk, prompt them, follow rabbit holes, get interested. And then when you need specific stuff, get them on your team and figuring out how. Never ask, can I? Ask, how can we? Second, go do the thing. Put yourself out there. Put yourself in those positions. You'll make great contacts. You'll get ideas for more books. And you will learn stuff you didn't set out to learn. That will make it amazing. And when you are doing physical stuff within a thriller or an action scene, stand up and block it out like a theater person. And that is going to, I think, make a big difference in your work. I know these things have been really useful for me. And I'm sure some of you, your mileage may vary. You know what you like to do, but that's all I have for you today.
That's amazing. That's really awesome. Wow, that's a lot of food for thought, too. I have to say that as somebody who's afraid of water, I don't think I could ever do the scuba diving thing, but you have all my respect for that. Wow. I was wondering, you have a past as an actor, and has that, well, I guess you kind of touched on it, but has that affected your, I mean, your acting out or your blocking, your action scenes and things like that?
Sure. I think that I tend to write. So I wanted to be a playwright. That was my first ambition. Playwriting is very hard for me. It happens in my gray matter, and it's very worky and difficult. And I'm honestly, I mean, maybe I would be better at it now because I'm older. And when I was trying to really trying to do playwriting, I was in my 20s, and I think writing in your 20s is just harder. You don't have enough life experience. It's hard to get enough distance from your work to really see it. But I do think it is just a harder form for me, um, because you have to leave room, right? If you're writing a play, you've got to have a thematic backbone, just like you do in a novel. But in a novel, you control the whole animal you're building on that thematic spine. When you're writing a play, you have to build the spine, and then you have to be really careful how much animal you build. You have to leave room for actors. You have to leave room for a director to add parts to that animal. You have to leave room for actors to put fur and horns and things on the animal. You can't, you have to be more willing to abdicate control. I am not willing to abdicate control. I like to make the whole animal. And when I write, and as an actor, both as an actor and a novelist, that comes from my like a occipital, like down in the reptile part of my brain, right above the spine. It is much more instinctive for me. It makes sense to me. It's not worky in the way writing a play is, where I'm, you know, it where I'm all in my head and it's very worky. A lot of the stuff I do as an actor or as a novelist are instinctive. So, I think that's why my novels are character driven, because what I'm trying to do is be that person. I write a lot in first person. I have written novels and sections of novels in third, but it's always third person directed, camera right on the shoulder. So it is kind of the actor's dream, because if I'm writing a novel, I get to cast myself as everybody. I get to play all the parts, to have a huge range. And so for me, yes, acting was sort of my gateway drug into writing novels. And I do think, like, in the same way, it's everybody I know who writes novels does this, right? Because I think that writing novels is it is the deliberate act of empathy. Reading novels is a deliberate act of empathy. You're going to say, I'm going to abdicate myself for a little while and inhabit this other life, either as a reader or a writer. And as a writer, my job is to make you feel along with this person and their situation. And as a reader, my job is to give you my suspension of disbelief and get in the car with you and go where you want to take me, and try to feel the situation is real and put myself in it and be present and really understand that person. And I think that theater is a radical act of empathy. So it trains you.
Wow, yeah. How did the audiobook narrating part come about for you? Was
Oh,
that before you were writing or while you were writing or?
no, I had done voice acting before I wrote a novel, because voice acting is it is a way to make money as an actor. Playwriting, I've had some plays as a young woman. I had some plays produced, and I made more money as an actor than as a playwright. And you don't make a lot of money as an actor. um, but voice acting is a pretty, like, I did local commercials, and I did like radio stuff, and I did, like, one time I booked a, a voiceover for a documentary that ended up winning the Emmy that year. It was called Religion and Revolution in Nicaragua. And there's tons of people that they interview, but there's this one nun, and I was her voice. So this kind of young nun would begin speaking earnestly in Spanish, and then the Spanish would cut out and you'd hear me come in, here in Nicaragua, we believe, So I had booked stuff like that. So I had voice acting experience. But I didn't want to read my first novel because I think that people always think your first novel is autobiographical. And my first novel is autobiographical, and it is under my bed, and you will never read it. The novel that I published first was my third novel. And because it was coming out, it would be my first published novel, I knew everybody would think it was autobiographical. And the narrator is a wildly promiscuous murderess. So I thought maybe some distance, just a little distance would be good. But my second novel, this is the Coda, the child of a deaf adult. She was a more reasonable person. She was surrounded by unreasonable people, but my first novel's narrator is not a reasonable person. I love her, but she is a hot mess. The second novel, she's more surrounded and trying to control hot messes, and she's a pretty normal person. So I thought I could do that. So I just asked my editor, I said, hey, do you think they would let me read the audiobook? And she said, oh, honey, no. Nobody wants the author to do that. No. And I said, but I mean, I've done voice acting before and I think I'd be pretty good at it. And she was like, that is so cute. No. And I said, okay, can I audition? And she said, all right, I don't want, yes, of course you can audition, send in a reel, but don't get your hopes up. So because I had been in theater, I knew people, voice actors, people who had like home studios where they were doing professional recording. And I got a friend of mine who did that to help me with the reel. So I was in a soundproof, it was their closet in their house, but it was soundproofed and they had professional equipment. These were actors, and like I said, one of the best ways to make money as an actor is voiceover work. So he also knew how to do all the editing and blanket out the noise, and so he really helped me do it. And for the reel, I read like one scene of straight narration, one comic scene with a dialogue of two characters, and like then I did a fight scene where 4 different men are beating the hell out of each other, and they all talk. And when they heard that, they were like, oh, yes, you can read your audiobook. And I mean, it went really well. Like I was up for the Audie that year for author narration, which is like that category is it is absolutely ridiculous that I was in that category because I mean, there was no way I was going to win. It was me, Maya Angelou, Cokie Roberts, the essayist, the really funny essayist, who reads his own books. His sister is an actor. He used to have a tip jar. You know who I'm talking about. Oh,
And I can't think of his
George?
name either.
Anyway, he what?
David Sedaris?
Yes, David Sedaris. And yeah, I mean, it was just ridiculous. Like, obviously, I wasn't going to win, but just to be in that company did not feel bad. And, I started getting offers to read other people's audiobooks. And I did it quite, whenever I had time, or if I really liked the book, or if a friend had written the book and asked me, I would do it. I don't do it as much anymore because I'm in my 50s now and I don't have the range I used to have. It's a little harder. As far as how you make your character sound and act differently, I see that question in the side from Betsy. People do it different ways. So I'm an outside in actor. I'm not method at all. Method people like feel things and I don't like to do that. I remember my dead dog. I cry. I don't want to do that. If you make your body into a shape, you will feel the thing. It is a fact. If you make the expression, your brain is hardwired to your features and your body. If you tense up, your brain will release stress chemicals. If you grin, your brain will trickle happiness chemicals. So I shape my body in the chair, and I usually have a facial expression that I associate with each character. So when I put my face into their habitual expression, that voice comes out. Um, so like, Penny, I was talking to mom and I don't know what she was thinking, but we can't do this. Like it's wrong. And as a vegan, I just find myself so like I put my Gand expression on, that's Penny's brother from Missing Sister, and it just comes to me. If I want to read Thalia, I think about killing you and I lean in. Hi, let's talk about it. Yeah, get a little closer. I dare you. Like it just comes because you put your body in the shape.
Well. And Jenna had a question too. When in the writing process do you tend to get your hands dirty? It sounds like you draft things first and then edit after interviews or experiencing / blocking things through.
So I'm a pantser. The way I write a book is I know my characters down to the bone. I know what motivates them. I know like who they love the most, what hurts them the most, what their I mean, I don't really sit around and think about what kind of noodles does Penny like. I don't care. But I mean like, the real stuff, the big things. I know these characters and I know their history. I know their past traumas that's going to inform their decisions. I know what's going to scare them. Um, and then when I have this cast assembled and I know their relationships to each other, who would you kill for? Who would you die for? Who, what ethical things would you kill for? What would you like? All that kind of stuff about them. I by then I know who the narrator is, or sometimes there's multiple narrators. I know who they are, and I just set whatever they love most on fire, and we're off. So, research for me, backstory research happens before I start writing, usually while I'm still finishing the book I'm working on. I get about 75% of the way through a book, and I start thinking about the next book because the next book is always so easy, right? The book you're writing is a nightmare. It's so hard. And but the next book, it's just going to fall right out of your butt. It's going to be so easy. You can see the whole thing so clearly. Of course, once it becomes the book you're actually writing, it's a nightmare. And the next book, that'll be the easy one. So in the last section, while I'm writing the end, like there's a certain point in a book, usually for me, 75-80% of the way through, where every ball I want to get in the air is in the air and they start dropping. And that is when the writing tends to go fast and be easier. I don't have to put anything else up in the air. We've entered the inevitable phase. I now understand what the end is going to be. I'm sliding toward it. That's when I start research for the next book. I learn the opening scene. When this book is when the book I finish is turned in and it's being with editors and doing all that stuff, the best thing you can do, in my opinion, is start dating another book. Like I know people call their books their children, but you do not sell your children. I don't like that. I think of my books as my boyfriends. So the book I'm with, it's a very passionate, tempestuous relationship, and we love each other very much, but we also fight a lot, and it's very fulfilling but exhausting. And when that book is done and it goes and if you criticize my boyfriend, I will hurt you because I love him. But when we break up, and it's a good breakup, we wish each other well. I want him to go and have wonderful relationships with readers and bestseller lists and libraries. We break up. This book is where my passion goes. Already got some research done into all the backstory stuff. And as it unfolds, I start really doing hands-on stuff, usually when I'm writing the first 25-30%. A lot of times that research is going to inform how the book goes. I'm going to change things because of what I learn, or I'll have an experience that really opens something up for me. And at the same time, like I'm doing edits on this book, but I don't love this book that much anymore. It's just, he was great, but we're done now. So I can like cut chunks of him off if I need to, or give him a nose job without really caring. I'm with this guy now. So, and part of getting my head and my heart really into the new relationship. So I'm not going to want to die in a hole if the book gets a bad review. Somebody says mean things. That's not my boyfriend. I did date him. Yeah, he did have some flaws. Okay, that's fair. You didn't like it. You don't have to date him. I'm glad I dated him. There's lots of people who will enjoy being with him, but it's not going to kill me if you don't like him. So, and research, that kind of hands-on research where you're being experiential, that helps me release the book that I'm done with too.
Well, that's great. Yeah. Do we have any more questions? Anybody else have any questions for Joshilyn? The I had one that was kind of flew out of my head. I do okay, kind of little bit off the topic, but you mentioned I read in your intro that you live in a gently haunted mansion, and I was just curious about that, and if you had any paranormal experiences, or if
No, it's a very
paranormal.
disappointing house. I call it gently haunted because I have a wild imagination and I really wanted it to be haunted. And so this house, it's not a mansion. It's a very small Victorian row house, which is my favorite kind of house. I love them. It's 3 stories, but there's only like 2 rooms on each story, so it's like a 6-room house. And I'm up and down the stairs all day. But it was built in 1876, and I wanted some kind of little Gilded Age consumption ringlets ghost, like really bad. But I didn't get one. I thought, and then I was like, okay, I will take a 70s painter who fell off the roof high. No, I didn't get that either. Everything that could have been a ghost has turned out to be my cats. I really hoped that it would be haunted, but it is really only gently haunted by tuxedo cats. It takes me a year and a half to write a book, unless I am pregnant or have a life-threatening illness. Those times it's taken me 2 years each. Each time I've had 2 life-threatening illnesses and 2 children, so 4 times it's taken me 2 years to write a book, which is terrible. Like, I'm a commercial writer. If you're writing commercial fiction, especially now that I've gone to thrillers, like when I was writing book club fiction, I wasn't under that kind of 1 book a year pressure, because very few people who write like book club fiction do a book a year. But as soon as I moved more commercially, they were like, "Do you think you could?" No, I cannot. I can't. Not and have it be good, not and be happy with it. So it takes me a year and a half. It just does, and like that's okay. I mean, it is what it is, right?
How would you say your daily writing routine is? Do you work a certain number of hours or a certain number of
No,
pages?
I wish I have raging ADHD. I'm a dopamine driven creature. I do not write every day. I don't do anything every day. I am a person who, like, just to brush my teeth every day feels like this again. Okay, here we go. I Entropy is my enemy. I When I write, I tend to write in great heaping swaths. Like this weekend, and I do things to dopamine it up. Like, I don't like drafting. I love revising. So I'll do things like writing retreats. I'll write a 20 to 30% of a novel on a writing retreat, or 10 to 20% of a novel on a weekend like this, where I'm doing sprints with friends and it feels like a competition and you have to post your word count. And this one, we're doing something really cool where everybody hosts the sprints online. So we all have 3-hour blocks and we're kind of telling stories. So mine is everybody goes to this kind of medieval tavern, and every time we put our word counts in, we did 4 sprints over 3 hours. And every time our word count went in, like the waterfall outside the tavern got longer. And it was like, oh, if you get 3,000 words, you'll be able to climb down and the waterfall will be long enough to reveal the cave. Well, when we hit 3,000 words, the cave was revealed. Okay, now we need 6,000 words to get the cave door to open. So I'm telling them a little story, and they're doing the same things with theirs. Like there's like 4 hosts, so there's 4 different stories that are going to play out. So far, only the woman who was hosting last night and I have started. Hers is in a haunted castle in Transylvania. There's wolves. It's very gothic. I suspect the son of the Lord of the Manor might be an immortal demon. We'll find out. But so I do all these little dopamine things to make myself get the words. And then once I have something down, I love to revise. It's like, that's a pleasure for me, but I hate writing. So I don't do it every day. I do it in big chunks. And then I have months of wonderful revising work that I enjoy.
Jenna mentions that she loves your approach as a pantser. She's a pantser as well, and that work. She's glad it works for you. See how it
So
works.
I'm going to go to Thriller Fest. Do you guys know Thriller Fest in New York City? I'm teaching a workshop called the Pantser Plotter Swaparoo or some dumb thing I named it. I don't remember. I'd have to look it up. But I am trying to be a plotter. I'm just trying to, and I've failed so far. I've tried the last 2 books to write an outline, and I spent a lot of time on the outline, and then by the time I was 3 chapters in, I had abandoned it. So this time what I learned is to make the outline into a living document and write it really short. And as soon as I know I'm wrong, oh yeah, that's true. If you can't get to Thriller Fest, you can get the recordings. Betsy says, and that is absolutely correct. It's really fun though. Thriller Fest is really fun. It is pricey, but everybody pays to go. Even the people on the panels, they all pay to go. I'm paying to go and teach there, which is insane because you meet so many cool people. It's a great networking opportunity. It's so fun. That I like it, so I go, and it's close. But yeah, so I'm really trying that, and I will say this, like switching up between that, like I always said for years, oh, I could never do that. But when I keep the outline really short, this will happen. Then she does this. Then she does this. Then this guy dies. Then this happens. Then we find out the brother was behind it. Then the brother gets killed. Like when I'm just doing like short things like that framework, it's really easy to change it as things change while I'm writing. And I have a place I'm going always, which even if something happens and that changes, that's an hour of work to change it, and it makes me write faster. It's extremely helpful. And I think that I'll never do it again. But I think I've learned a lot about the motivations of understanding what has to happen next and how that helps me. And I'm wondering, like, I want somebody who's a plotter to try pantsing and see if it doesn't make them a better, faster writer just to put on somebody else's process like clothes, even if you're going to abandon it pretty quickly. Like say you've always written an outline, da, 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 da. Okay, instead of doing that, before you write your next book, write a first chapter. Just go into it. Know your person, know the thing they love the most, set it on fire, let them run mad and see if you don't get something out of it that you might not have gotten using your usual method. See if it doesn't push you. Because I think as writers, like the worst thing we can do, it's not true. I speak in such hyperbole. Forgive me. I think a bad trap that some writers often fall into, is more truthful, is we love our characters and we try to protect them, and then we have to go back in and rip all that out, and we are or we have this idea of what the chapter is supposed to be. And even if that feels wrong, we just break off chunks of the character to make them fit this narrative. Like, I think that attempting somebody else's process is really valuable. And I've done this a lot. Like, I remember being told by somebody, Terry Kay, he's dead now, but he was he was the guy who wrote Dance with the White Dog, which was made into a movie, and he was a cool man. But he said the way he learned to write was he took his favorite novel and wrote it in longhand, sentence by sentence. And by the time he was done with that, he really understood narrative structure, and he wrote Dance with the White Dog, which was a huge success and sold millions of copies and da da da. And I'm not going to do that. I don't have the patience for that. I don't have enough life left in my bones to do that. But I did do it with my favorite Flannery O'Connor short story. And damned if I didn't get 3 ideas out of it. Damned if I didn't understand narrative structure better from having done it. Like, so anytime you can try on someone else's process, like I always tell people, don't buy a book that is going to teach you how to write a novel, because it won't. It'll teach you how that person writes a novel. Read 30 books that tell you how to write a novel, and then try on those methodologies until you find what works for you. And then even after you have something that works for you and you can reliably write a novel, I can reliably write a novel at this point. That never feels true. Anytime you face the blank white page, you think that those other, like, I've written 15 novels now, 12 published. You know, because I've written 2 that I just have in the hopper that I've never shopped too, that are just sort of passion projects. So I've written 16 novels now, and every time it's like, I wonder if I can do this. And the first few pages, you think, probably not. This is impossible. But you can. You, on the intellectual level, if you've written a novel a few times, you know you are a person who can write a novel. Trying on these different methodologies can shake you up, get you deeper into the book, get you past what you think you want to write about and what that says about you, and down, like, your best story lives way, way down in the black and salty depths of your most horrifying mental illness. And you don't want to go there. So all these things that I'm telling you are really just different ways to push yourself down into the edges of that swamp where the best stories you own live, and find, like, that stuff wants out of you. It wants out of you. So you don't want to tell those stories because it's painful and it's scary, but those stories want to be told. So you have to get out of your own way. So, I mean, literally all these research things I've talked about, they're ways to get out of your own way. Find paths. I mean, when somebody's talking to you in an interview and they say something that wounded little monster of the swamplands, thematically, that's what makes them tick. They say something that's going to light up a chunk of your book you didn't know was there. And that's just from doing that first section of the interview where you're just talk about what you do and why you love it and following those rabbit trails, or putting yourself in a situation where I think I'm going to be scared, scuba diving, but no, I love it. And here's why. Or maybe it does scare you and why. And trying on these different methodologies where you're writing an outline. So I never write an outline. Now I've written it. Here's the path I think I'm going to go down. What does that say about me? What kind of safety am I trying to create for myself? And what's going to shove me off that path?
I feel like we could talk for another hour or 2, but we're running out of time, and you got more words to write on your sprints.
I do. I'm going to start one at 12.
They
got it. I just looked, I just checked. They got the cave open. So I'm going to go tell
them. We are going to raffle off your upcoming book, Missing Sister, to one of our people who have attended. I don't know. Do we announce that now, Amy, or do we just?
We can announce that now, and the winner is Larry Keaton.
Hey, congratulations, Larry.
Oh, Larry, I can't wait for you to meet Thalia. She's real sweet.
So I'll send along Larry Keaton's email to you, Jocelyn, and this way you can arrange to send that copy to him.
Sure. I do not have my author copies yet, but they should be coming this week. So we will make that happen.
Perfect. Thank you so much for a wonderful presentation.
Oh, my pleasure. I enjoy you guys so much, and I think my membership has lapsed. I did one of those life-threatening illness things this year, and I'm fine now, but I had to have a bunch of surgery, and I just let things lapse. But I will figure out how to get registered at some point. I've been recovering from kind of major surgery and nonsense while getting ready to leave on book tour in a week. So a lot of things just fell by the wayside.
Well, if there's any way we can facilitate you renewing, just let us know. We'll help you out in any way possible.
Oh, thanks. I appreciate that. When I get back from book tour, I have a list of all the things I need to do. So it'll probably be, you know, back end of March when I say, hey, I can't understand this website because I am a Mima lady and technology is hard. Thank you guys
Okay.
so much for coming.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. It was wonderful.